Hello class. This week's assignment is going to be an extension of last week's assignment. Last week's assignment we did a single year cash flow statement. In this assignment we are going to do a multi-year cash flow statement. These are not often done for financial records, but they're often completed in order for somebody to have a good grasp of their cash flows through various years. So what we have right here is it's mostly filled in. Just like what you would see on your actual assignment, is most of the data is going to be given to you for like 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then you have to estimate 2017. So another great aspect about cash flow statements is they can be used almost as a predictive tool to try and understand where you're going to be at the following year. So to save a little bit of time on the video, I went ahead and already filled in all of 2014's data, 2015's data, 2016's data, and I filled it in a way that I would have given you the data for the actual assignment. So we go through here and we have a typical cash flow statement where we have the sum of all of the revenue, we have the sum of the expenses under operating activities, and then of course we have revenues minus receipts to get the net cash flow from operating activities. It's done, it's already set up all of this way, all of the formulas already there that you should have done last week. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in, we're going to start filling in certain aspects. Like this whole line right here, it's blank. The interest expense is blank. We have to actually go in and plug in a formula. The interest expense, as we talked about last week, is equal to the operating loan from the previous year times the interest rate, because it is an operating loan for a full year compounded annually. So the interest rate that we're going to use, keep with this example, is 0.05 or 5%. The interest rate that is on your assignment, I believe, is 10%, not 5%. So be very cautious of that as you go through there. So what we can actually do is we can actually drag this across now. And although we're coming up with zeros all the way across, if we look, because of the cell referencing, next year, in the 2015 year, if we have an operating loan that we have to pay back, then of course it's going to show up automatically. So by dragging that across, it shows up. It allows us to just plug in numbers down there and go about our business. So we have 2014 almost all the way filled out. We keep going down. We see that we have a current operating loan of $8,500. No operating loan this year. We have a net increase in cash. Beginning cash is there. Ending cash is here. And we said that if ending cash is less than $75,000, we need to take out a loan. So in this year, this is not need for 2017 operating loan. This is need for next year operating loan. So just like we've talked about before, a operating loan that is taken out, or the need for the operating loan in 2015 is 0. We need, because this is 2014, the need for the next year, which will be 2015, is 0. So what we actually do is we want to come up here and cell reference this value right here. The reason for that is we're saying that in 2014 we had a high enough amount in our ending cash where we didn't need to take out an operating loan. So revenue from operating loan in 2015 is equal to 0 because we did not need to take out an operating loan. But in the expenses is the previous year operating loan expenses. So right here, we actually have to say is equal to the previous year's operating loan. The reason for that is, so we say right here that last year operating loan, we had to take out an operating loan in 2014 for $8,500. you have to pay that back in 2015. So we're paying back this loan in 2015, and that's where that expense is coming in right there. And if we look up here at our interest expense, you see it was at 0. Well, it automatically fills in because it's referenced to this cell already. So then we go down, we look through, and our beginning cash is blank. So we have to calculate our beginning cash. Our beginning cash is equal to our ending cash plus the loan amount, whatever loan amount we took out. So we go ahead and we fill that in, and we can see that we actually do not need an operating loan in 2015. So we're going to go ahead and drag these across, and it's simply just cell referencing the year before. Drag this one across, and it's going to cell reference it, and we go through and we can actually drag this one across now, and we're actually going to manipulate the data a little bit. We are going to go ahead and increase an expense up here just so we can get a better idea of how this works a little bit better. Let's say, in this year, the seed was actually double this, so it was going to be 21,600. So what we actually see now is that because of everything the way it's cell referenced, that you had to take out a loan, or you needed to take out a loan in 2016 of $10,755. It's calculated off of the 2015 values. You see the operating loan show up in 2016, and then has to be paid off in 2017. So that's kind of how the circular flow of the loans work. You go through and you figure out your cash flow for 1 year, for the first year. Figure out if you need an operating loan. The need for the operating loan becomes the revenue under operating loan for the next year, and that revenue will have to be paid out in the following year. So this workbook should be a great example of how, say, 2014's productivity, their cash flow statement of 2014 affects the cash flow statement of 2015, and again affects it again in 2016, either by the revenue side and the expense side. And we can see that definitely on the 2015 year. The 2015 year was not a very good year for this particular operation, causing them to take out a loan in 2016, which is paid back in 2017. So, the next thing that you can do is you can use a cash flow statement to kind of predict the cash flow, or previous year's cash flow statement, to predict the next year's cash flow. So you can predict in the future based off of past experiences. So I'm going to kind of go through this using some of the same formulas that you might actually have to use in the homework assignment. There's two ways you can kind of predict. You can predict based off of the market, or you can predict based off of the average. And each one has a certain place. Like labor. As you can see here, the labor cost is increased by $250 every year. Well, as a result, we might expect the 2017 labor to increase. The market trend is showing an increase. So what we're going to do is we're going to say actually 2000 previous year, plus 250. So then we're predicting next year's labor costs. The seed bill. Maybe the cost of seeds, it's fluctuating up and down, but it usually remains fairly constant. So we can actually come in here and say equals average. Maybe the average cost of the seed is the best predictor. So So we come in here and we average it out to where we say, okay, now we're predicting the cost of seed to be $2,900. Well, fuel, what if we expect, fuel to increase next year, or actually decrease? Say the price of oil is still low. So we can actually say we expect this, the previous year, we expect it to decrease by, say, 10%. So it's only going to be at 90% of what it was last year. So we can say last year times 0.9. And then maybe fertilizer. Fertilizer, we're going to say, is another average. And then income taxes. We're going to say income taxes is an average as well. And then we already have our interest expense filled in. Equipment sold, we're not expecting to sell any equipment or stocks next year, so there's zero revenue there. You have set land payments and set tractor payments, but equipment repairs varies from year to year. Maybe here we want to say, we want to use another average. So you can come in here and just highlight through, find the average, and a lot of these formulas are already changing in the background, and I'm not talking about formulas like the net cash flow from investing activities, because a lot of them have already been put into place. The operating loan, we have already figured it out. It was cell referenced off of the previous year's need, and then we can go down and we can actually figure out that the need for 2018's operating loan would be $29,531. So essentially, with the multi-year cash flow sheet, we can see how the need for an operating loan based off of 1 year will have to be paid back, or can be borrowed the next year and paid back the following year. Just as we see the need for 2015 or 2016's loan and paid back in 2017. So it shows how 1 year will affect the next year, or 1 month can affect the next month a lot of times in these cash flow statements. The next thing that I wanted you to see is how you can use previous years, say 2014, 15, and 16, to try and predict 2017. And how sometimes you're going to use market trends, such as, just adding $250 to the labor bill, or taking the cost of fuel, multiplying it by 0.9 because of a 10% drop in fuel cost expected to be next year. Or you can just use simple averages to find the expected cost of a particular expense. I hope this helped. This video helps for the assignment. As you're going through, just follow the steps, read the instructions fully. Where I tell you to calculate certain things, kind of look back on at this sheet, try to figure out maybe how to calculate them. I believe a lot of it's fairly self-explanatory, with the exception of the circular flow that you see down here, and that's going to be the primary purpose of this particular video. Just remember that the loans taken out in the previous year will have to be paid back the next year, and what happens in 1 year determines the need for a loan the next year that causes it to be paid back. And what you'll see is it makes these zigzags all the way across from 1 year to the next. Again, I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions on the assignment, and good luck.